Hi, Anti-Society! Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we're getting into another episode of Vinland Saga, and we spent the last episode getting introduced to Aenar, and yes, I am going to roll my R's because I didn't learn Scottish Gaelic just to not roll my R's whenever given the opportunity, but we spent most of the time introduced to him and his backstory and how he ended up on this farm where Thorfinn is, and I feel like he's going to probably stick around for a while, but considering that we've been introduced to other characters where we spent like a whole episode learning about them only for them to die horrifically soon after, I don't know how long he's going to stick around, but so far it looks like we're going to be following their story, working on this farm, seeing what Thorfinn is up to. He's looking a little rough, and being introduced to some of the other characters that are currently working at the farm too. I don't really know where this season is going story-wise yet, but I'm excited to reconnect with Thorfinn and see how he's doing, because like I said, he's looking all vacant behind the eyes, so I'm a little bit worried, but let's just get into the episode. In 3, 2, 1, go. This opener is like way more chill than I would expect, which maybe gives us some hints about what this season is going to be like. It just feels a lot more scenic. See, he's in the opener, so maybe we will get to see him a little bit more than... I don't know. Sometimes openers lie to me, though. I think it's interesting, too, that we have... like, River is the name of the song for the opener, and we had in the last episode where he was looking at the really chaotic like ocean, the waters there, and how that was very poetic of how he was feeling like emotionally in that moment. So it seems like water, I mean, water was always kind of a big part of the story anyway, because it was like trying to travel across water to this like promised land, right? But I wonder if it's going to be more prevalent here because of the whole like, I don't know, if you want to find civilization, you follow a river, you follow waterways, because that's where you're going to find people. See, this feels a little bit peaceful, and I don't trust that in this show. We had that last episode too, where I was like, this feels like it's going to take a drastic turn really quickly. Okay, he talks. That's a step forward. But all of those trees. Look, I'm a tree hugger, so I'm going to be a little upset if you're like, let's clear this entire forest out, okay? What if there are Ents there? Does Thorfinn want to be free, though? I almost feel like he's just sort of using this as a, I don't know, something to keep him going, right? Because he doesn't have the outlet and like the ambition and the goal that he had in season 1. I don't like how they're framing this like he's so benevolent, he's gonna set them free. I'm like, he could also just set them free now. Like, I'm just saying. He said 2 words, though. That's something. He wasn't much of a talker before. He's not much of a talker. Should just probably know that now. Just casually talking about how you had slaves. I mean, I don't think he had slaves, but like, still. Really trying for a conversation. Okay, 3 words. They responded to a question. Oh. So a few. Ooh, a few, yeah. But there's 2 of you now. He only kind of knows. He tried once. Yeah, I would be a little worried that they would follow me too if a novice was cutting down trees. I mean, that's good. Except your freedom. Is it? Are they eating their lunch? Oh, he's so bright-eyed. Yep. I had a bad feeling. Do not pick a fight. I just feel like a fight's brewing now. I don't like that the line work got more stark. You know, like everything was kind of a little bit more hazy before when it was more idealized. Don't pick a fight. It's weird to see Thorfinn not picking a fight though. I wonder if we'll get a flashback to be like what Thorfinn was like before getting to this point. Because I feel like he probably would have picked a fight or two. Oh, poor thing. Mm, yep, I was like rooting the way. Lift with your legs. Seems like a lot of work. Toad. I mean, I feel like this isn't gonna go well. I think by the end he's gonna pick a fight with them. Don't tell them that. Yeah, pretty much. They feel better about their lot in life because there's someone below them to treat the way that people above them treat them, right? I feel like he's gonna say something anyway. He's given up. It's a lot of shadow on that man's face after before he was being all seen as like this benevolent person, even though he has slaves. So like, boys, stay on topic. The dramatic wind, though, with the music, like the strings. He got a bit distracted. I don't know if they're gonna be friends though. I think partly because like Thorfinn is so empty at this point that how are you friends with someone who literally cares about nothing? Like he's just existing at this point because I think he doesn't know what else to do. Oh my goodness. Are they all slaves? Wasn't he in? We saw him in something else. Ender, maybe? Oh, okay. I was like, I was wondering why we had someone who would be speaking that way. I also noticed that he has like a weapon, which isn't something that like a slave would necessarily have. So not exactly a hero in the making. Another person who wants to prove themselves. Are you going to kill the moth? No, just because you're that uncoordinated. Just eventually. Ew, you're listening? And that's your daughter? Dude. So they're hoping he takes over the farm. I'm assuming marries their daughter, and then they end up being able to profit by the fact that they're like related to the person who owns the farm, right? Um, he seems unpleasant. Have you tried not yelling? Now, do we care about the farm? Unlikely. But I feel like he's also like very self-centered. I mean, he's 17, so like how many of us were self-aware at 17? I thought I was until I was like 10 years past it, and then I was like, oh, I didn't know what I was talking about. Don't hurt the horse. I have a bad feeling about this too. I feel like they don't have good intentions either. Kind of like you did a little bit. I'm just saying. I mean, he knew it a little bit better because his entire town was burned to the ground. So he was like, it was more about like protection than like being a warrior and like the bragging rights of that. Are we gonna take the tell the truth or are we gonna pretend? But I feel like this sparks a little more of a connection between them. Yep. they understand each other more than they did before, and maybe sparking something in Thorfinn. I really liked that interwoven with us being introduced to like this farm and like the farm owner and his son, and focusing in on that dynamic and what it is like working there, and like the retainers and stuff like that. What is the dynamic of being in this environment? Interwoven with that was the contrast of like all of these people with these emotions and drives and goals. Transpose that with Thorfinn, who is very empty of basically everything at this point. His whole thing of like, it doesn't matter is just gesture vaguely to everything, right? None of it matters to him anymore. He is completely void of any kind of emotion or drive or anything. There's nothing there. And that's what I was saying earlier on, is I'm like, his eyes are so vacant. There's nothing there. And it doesn't matter what's happening to him, what people are saying or doing to him. He doesn't have any kind of feeling there. But at the end, where we see this mention of Aenar talking about how his home was burned to the ground twice, was attacked twice, people were slaughtered, and his experience of what it was like watching that happen, and having that trigger something in Thorfinn, having him open his eyes, very symbolic, and then having him remember what it was like to witness the destruction of that, right? To understand what it is like to watch a group of people destroy towns. He's seen that. He's been part of that. He knows what that experience is like. And I think that it woke something in him. Now, I don't know what that means. Is that just that at this point, it just sparks a connection between these two characters, that they might actually look out for each other, connect, be more closer to a friendship than Thorfinn has had with anyone, basically, at this point, because he can empathize with Aenar and like that experience, and they can understand each other through that? Or is this going to later down the line trigger something more of Thorfinn finding a new purpose, right? Because revenge was the only thing that was fueling him for so long, and now Askeladd is gone. There's nothing for him to do there anymore. He's lost that North Star for him. So he doesn't have any reason to care about anything or to continue. He's just existing because he doesn't know what else to do. It'll be interesting to see how this develops, especially through their friendship. I'm interested to see how this season develops. I don't really know what the end point is, other than we had Knut mentioned, and he's in the opener and stuff. We're gonna circle back to him at some point, but I don't really know how we're going to get to that point, or what the overall goal of the season is going to be. But I had that for a little bit in season 1 too, where it meandered a bit because it was setting up some stuff and kind of just exploring the world, as opposed to being something that was like purely plot driven on a season arc. Right? There was a lot of internal stories per episode that were really painting what this world is and like why people are making the decisions that they're making, right? It was really setting up, these are the kinds of people and the environment that Thorfinn is surrounded by, and what does that mean for his goals or his decisions or how he interacts or views the world. We'll have to wait and see, but I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this place to go and see my previous reaction, or you can subscribe so this next time I post a Vinland Saga reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.